What's that sound I hear? No, it's not Auburn basketball's hopes and dreams still whooshing away after a disappointing March Madness. It's the transfer portal. It's wide open, a little bit early for Auburn football. Let's talk about who it involves and what it means for the program. But first, I want to welcome you back to the channel, whether you're an Auburn fan or a fan from another persuasion, just checking out what we got going on here. This is the E2C network, where the Auburn family speaks. Our content here and on our podcast network may tend to be Auburn sports heavy, but if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our content. And thank you to members of our booster club like Kevin Nelson, who help produce videos like this. The glorious transfer portal. We all love it, don't we? It giveth and it taketh away. This time it taketh from Auburn football. News began to break just before another Auburn football practice in the spring that two players had decided to enter the transfer portal. First, Demetrius Davis, longtime backup quarterback for Auburn, said on social media that he was opening up his opportunities and that coaches could now contact him because he was #transfer portal. Shortly after that, we had the news breaking that cornerback backup Ro Torrence also had decided to put his name into the transfer portal as well. The interesting thing about all this is not so much who it is, but when it is. It's not shocking to see at the end of spring practice a lot of players really reevaluating where they are with the program and what's best for their careers. But just halfway through spring practice with only 2 weeks to A-Day, you figured some of these decisions might have waited just a little bit longer, which tells you that things are probably progressing in these certain position groups much more quickly than a lot of us had anticipated on who actually is going to be first, second, third, and so on string throughout the rest of those groups. We've talked a lot about the Demetrius Davis situation, just kind of initial reactions because it broke just before our live stream this past Wednesday. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link up above if you want to get just some initial reactions. A little bit of a scoop in there too. Someone with some information privy to how Demetrius really saw this kind of situation for himself shared that on our show. Go check that out if you want to. But I want to take just a few minutes here just to dive into each of these unique situations and talk through them and help us put some context on it for Auburn football. We'll start with Ro Torrence just because he's probably the one that hasn't been talked about as much in terms of transferring. So with his situation, you got a 6'4", 220 plus pound defensive back who's a pretty solid option in your depth chart to have as part of your team. And this guy's no slouch. He came from the junior college ranks, but he was the National Defensive Junior College Something Award Player of the Year, basically the best defensive player in junior college at the time that he came to Auburn. Now, since he's arrived in his 1 year at Auburn, hasn't seen a lot of time. 10 games, I believe it was, handful of tackles. I think he got a forced fumble, a couple of pass breakups. So he's had his stats there, but he hasn't seen an exorbitant amount of time and action for the Tigers, really just with the Birmingham Bowl, which you see a lot of players get time playing in those type of situations anyway. You also got to think about this for him. Jalen Simpson, Nehemiah Pritchett have pretty much established themselves as the go-to guys at the corner positions for Auburn. And with a lot of upcoming and promising talent supposedly behind Ro Torrence right there, you can kind of see where the situation for him feels like he's getting squeezed a little bit. He may feel that he's ready for that number one spot, but that doesn't seem to be happening at this point for him. Especially when you got guys like J.D. Rhyme who are already impressing in spring practice and might be pushing for even more time over a guy like Ro Torrence. So the situation really becomes apparent. For him, at his point in his career, with where he's at and his time he has left, it might be more beneficial for him to go seek an opportunity elsewhere, and that's what seems to be the case here. Let's talk about Demetrius Davis. Feels like every year there's a big topic that everyone divides themselves off across the Auburn's family spectrum. Whether it's about Bo Nix, this year it was going to be about Demetrius Davis and him either not getting a shot, did he deserve a shot, all that kind of stuff. We're not going to really get into that. I just want to kind of take a second to kind of analyze the situation. A little bit more unique than Ro's situation because he's actually been here for quite some time. No one is going to question, and I will fight for him on this, his commitment to this team. Not just a coach, but a team. You a lot of times see players commit to a coach and they get upset and leave if they leave. This guy stuck it out, so credit to him for doing that. D, when he came in, was supposedly going to be the next big wave for Coach Malzahn and his type of offense when they got him full steam ahead, probably after Bo Nix left. Obviously, that didn't come to fruition, and so that kind of left Dee Davis in a unique situation where he's got to try to fit into a new coaching scheme, new offense, all kinds of new things that he's got to find his place with. It feels like he's been perpetually stuck behind a lot of other talent, whether it was a Bo Nix, a TJ Finley coming in, and now add Zach Calzada to the mix as well. Counter that with, also similar to Torrence, promising backups behind him that may be squeezing him out for opportunities here at Auburn, whether that be a Robbie Ashford or a Holden Geriner. With reports that TJ is solidifying himself at least in spring practice as the #1 guy, and then you throw Calzada into the mix there and how that's going to play out, it really becomes obvious that this is probably not the best situation for him, and I hate to see that because I was really hoping we were going to see some successful things for Demetrius Davis here at Auburn. Most people are surprised this actually didn't happen sooner, and I'm kind of in that camp as well, but I meant before spring practice started, not in the middle of spring practice. I kind of hoped on an outside chance that he would just play it out through A-Day and see what happened, but as we talked about with both of these situations, things are probably becoming more apparent for their situations much more quickly than they or even we anticipated. So the context for Auburn. First of all, this is normal. Everybody don't panic and think that there's going to be another big wave of people leaving because they're unhappy. There is going to be people leaving in the spring. That's what happens. People are trying to figure out where they fit into this. Am I a starter? Am I a backup? Am I behind the backup? They're trying to figure out what's the best opportunities for their career. You will likely see more of that. However, I am shocked that all this took place as soon as it did during spring practice. This should also encourage you that there is some solid and very promising depth, even the younger guys that are starting to rise up during spring practice, as some of these guys in the middle feel like they're getting squeezed out. And as I said, it's sad that we won't see these guys' potential at Auburn, but I think that they'll have promising futures even outside of being a Tiger. So those are my thoughts on the two transfer portal situations that have arisen in the middle of spring practice. I'm sure there'll be more to come. I want to know your thoughts about both of those situations and where they might end up in the comments section below. Before you get out of here, if you enjoy this type of content, please do help support it by smashing that like button. If you want more from us, be sure to hit that subscribe along with the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads or live streams. There's ways that you can help support our content listed in the description below, such as becoming a channel member here for $1 a month, or heading over to patreon.com/E2C network to become a Booster Club member there. All those links are available in the description. Thank you for tuning into the E2C network, where the Auburn family speaks War Eagle.